We hear a lot about this, this living, living this ideal life or living the ideal way, right? I talk a lot about this, visualizing the kind of life that you want to live, right? So I think for me, the way I interpret it, I don't see it as burning a bridge per se. Um, I like to use all my strengths and all my skills and everything that I do, because I believe it's a gift. We're given this gift that, maybe Baruch, you're good with storytelling, so maybe you're that kind of educator who's really just good at storytelling. And if I'm not mistaken, I think on the podcast we shared about this one educator who I helped him find his dream job. And he was a rapper, he was a singer, he was a musician, and he was teaching his lessons through rap. And I told him, if you have this vision
Mm.
for your life, doesn't necessarily fall into boxes or whatever, but figure out how to live this beautiful life that you set up for yourself. So my question really, I guess, to Chelsea is, how does that fall into play? How does that, like this ideal life, so to speak?
You know, so I posted something about this the other day about when we go in to make these lists for like our ideal job or our ideal relationship or whatever we're making a list for, right? Say it's your job. Like, I want my salary to be this much. You give it a specific number. I want the location to be this. I need, the team structure to be this. And what if instead of setting up your ideal life as I need to have these bullet points, or what if you came at it as I'm looking for these feelings or experiences?
Mm,
So instead of I need to make 300K, it's I want to be able to provide for my family in a way that I feel comfortable and don't have to, be concerned
Mm.
from paycheck to paycheck. Right. So you're shifting from I need to make this very boxed in amount to I want to
mhm.
feel this way. And maybe you can feel that way with 200K instead of
Right,
300K. Right. And so you're
right.
allowing for that kind of shift in what your ideal life looks like, dependent upon what you're looking to experience for yourself, instead of saying, I need this very specific thing. And it was the same thing for like relationships, right? Instead of
Mhm.
saying, I need someone who has a master's degree, it's I want someone who can have deep intellectual conversations with me.
Mm,
Because you can get that with or without a master's degree. So you're
sure.
looking for that feeling instead of that bullet point. And I think for me, that's a big shift that I've made as I'm kind of, setting up my ideal life or whatever you call it, right? Is what is the end, what's the feeling that I'm looking for instead of
Mm,
that bullet point? And it's a big shift in
sure.
thinking and now and how I'm kind of perceiving what I want to do next.
But like this really just goes to show that some people, that bullet point is that's what it is. They want that $1 million, but what you're bringing to light is that feelings and your emotional connection to something is just as valid and just as important. I think that's incredible because the other thing is, for me, all about exceptional development. To me, exceptional means leveling up, always doing one step more than where you are now, which means there's constant growth. There's constantly going to the next level. And you can feel a feeling, but then still want it more. So you're going to have to do the
Mm-hmm.
work to get that feeling again. And so it's this constant drive to, like one of the things I mentioned was happiness is in the pursuit of something great. Like when I was in New York, I was pursuing something great, even though I hated it there, but I was
Mhm.
pursuing something great. So I was happy. We moved here. I had everything I was pursuing. So I became unhappy, which was really weird. So I had to set up
Right.
Yeah.
something to pursue so that I would be happy again. And I think that's exactly what you're saying there is that feeling, that emotion. So thank you for that. It's a powerful share.
I
It
think it
is.
goes all the way back to what we talked about the goals at the beginning when I said, you have to always dream 20 times bigger than you think.
Mm,
Because I was in a very
Yeah.
similar place when I was 23 and was able to check off all these boxes. I was like, what,
yeah.
and it kind of stagnated. Like, what am I do with that? And so it is in the pursuit of whatever you're going after, because, if you're constantly reaching it and you have nothing next, then and I think that's a thing with feelings
Yeah.
is if you set a goal at 200K and then you hit 200K for your salary, then you're like, I'm done. But if you're
Right.
setting the goal for, I want to feel this feeling of comfortability,
Right.
you have to make that recurring, and it gives you, yeah, you're always going to be kind of chasing that, for lack of a better word.
Love it.
So we're publishing this book. It's called For the Love of Success, and it really talks very much aligned with what you're saying. I had a dream, like I knew the kind of wife that I wanted to marry, and I made myself my list, and my list was 4 pages long. The way it works in our culture, in our community, is that you go to a matchmaker and you sort of say, here's what I'm looking for, here's what I am, it's very much arranged in that kind of sense.
Yeah.
And then they start setting you up, and and that's how this works. But
that actually sounds amazing. I'm just gonna jump into that system.
So there's the pros and the cons. There's the pros and the cons. I felt, unfortunately, the cons part of it, where they just looked at me and they look at this like 4-page, they looked at it as if it was a demand list, which it totally wasn't. But anyhow, and they just looked at me and they were trying to coach me through not making lists. And I was just saying, like, look, I did a lot of introspection. I did a lot of internal work, and I just know the kind of person that I am and what's going to work for me. And that's where I'm coming from. And my list was very much aligned with what you're saying, where, yes, it was detailed, it was detailed. However, there were explanations to why it was detailed. There was explanations why I wanted this kind of person. And I did leave like a leeway in there to say, okay, she doesn't have to necessarily have red hair. She could be blonde too, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't care about it that much. I'm only giving these specifics in order to kind of like, create it into existence, so to speak.
Right. I mean, you have to vision cast in some way.
Yeah.
Like, you have to know what you're like. I think it was you that talked about kind of vision boarding or vision planning, or like allowing to see yourself where you want to be. And I think you have to have some of those details to be able to do that practice.